Laura Kyrke-Smith.
Speaker, and I congratulate my honourable friend for securing this debate. I'll focus my contribution on the suicide risks during the perinatal period. That's the period from pregnancy through to the year after a child's birth. I've spoken in this House before about the tragic death of my wonderful friend Sophie, who took her own life 4 years ago, leaving behind her husband and her 3 little girls aged 6, 3 and just 10 weeks old. I've been feeling the sadness of her death again this week, looking at the photos of her youngest, now setting off to primary school for the first time, beaming with pride, and I know Sophie would have been so proud too. I still vividly recall the shock of the moment I learned that she died, the message that came through from her husband, because it was only after we lost her that I learned just what a risk there is of suicide in this period of life. 1 in 4 people experience some form of postnatal depression or anxiety, which is still poorly recognised as an issue generally, and it's something that I campaign on. But the vast majority do go on to recover. But for some people it's very, very serious, and for some it's so unbearable that they end their lives. The leading cause of death for women in that period, from 6 weeks to a year after the birth of their child, is suicide. And the Maternal Mental Health Alliance have delved into this data and found some more alarming details, in particular the persistent social, economic and racial inequalities in who dies and who survives. Women in the most deprived areas have much higher rates of deaths. Black women are more than twice as likely to die as white women, and women of Asian and mixed ethnic backgrounds also face elevated risks. And so, with these risks and Sophie's death in mind, I want to offer 3 reflections. The first is that we're all vulnerable, each and every one of us. Of the women who die by suicide, nearly half have known mental health problems, but the rest do not. And it's a time when I think the social pressures are really great. People expect you to be revelling in the joy of the new baby, but the reality is for many people that there are challenges in caring for the baby, not enough sleep, not enough company, feelings of loneliness, failure, guilt, and the loss of the sense of self, the old you that you knew before having children, which you fear is gone forever. So this can make it a very difficult period for many women, including people who haven't struggled with their mental health before. And so it's so important that we're all cognizant of this in ourselves and in others around us. My second reflection then is that we all carry a responsibility to each other. I still look back on Sophie's death and I blame myself. I ask whether I could have done more. But as Paul Doble, a fascinating therapist working in my constituency of Aylesbury, recently put it to me, the reality is sometimes we cannot prevent every suicide, but that doesn't make it any less true that we must never be afraid to try. And so the real question is how we support people better when they are suicidal, knowing that our compassion, our care, our presence may not remove every risk, but it can make life more bearable. And it may be our question that's the one that interrupts their suicidal thoughts and leads them to different choices. And again, that's something that we must all be cognizant of. And my third point is that the government has to keep taking suicide risk and suicide prevention really seriously, as I know we do, and I hope we'll hear more from the Minister, who I welcome to his place, on the suicide prevention strategy. Because we know that the care that a suicidal person receives can make a big difference. For people in the perinatal period, we do have some fantastic specialist perinatal mental health services, but I've heard from so many women who can't access them. And it's actually in all of the routine maternity care that a woman receives where suicide risk needs to be assessed and support given if necessary. And the same is true of so many other parts of the NHS and so many of our other public services, as we've heard from others, whose actions can make the difference between life or death. And the role of public health interventions in this, social and emotional learning programmes in schools, for example, is so crucial too. Conscious of time, I'll end it there, but I do hope that this World Suicide Prevention Day is a turning point in saving lives and tackling this immense challenge in our society.
Yeah.